So good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 in our Leadership for Digital Learning webinar series. Today's webinar session theme is online collaboration. We waited a few extra minutes just to give people time to join into the session after the holiday weekend. So let's get started. One initial thing I wanted to highlight for folks is, of course, our it.lyric.org website, and recently available now also under the Technology Planning Clarity. You can find a link to this year's Clarity Leadership for Digital Learning program website, where we'll be posting all of the webinar recordings, additional materials, the schedule of events, and activities. So after today, maybe take a look at visiting that and bookmark it for future reference. So our three-part outline, again, for today, we'll have a story from a teacher in our region. We'll then look at some rapid analysis and insight strategies for online collaboration as part of your Clarity data. And then with those insights and analyses, looking at some simple, easy, and meaningful actions that we can take as school and district leaders to have maximum impact. So, online collaboration. We all kind of have an association with this word collaboration, and the most common understanding is how we think about projects or problem-solving activities in a classroom that teachers do with their students. And those kinds of collaborative projects involve shared responsibility and decision-making by the students. It's not just working together in a group. The same can also be said for online collaboration. Online collaboration involves the creation and elaboration of work by students, as well as an important element of communication. It's not simply just sharing a document where we'll each add a bit in at our own time. Some key powerful learning bolts for online collaboration, though, focus on these aspects by students creating, elaborating, and communicating not only with their classmates, but also with teachers and within their own school, but other schools, as well as communicating and elaborating and working on projects with outsiders, whether they be professionals or other teachers in other schools or students from other schools. These kinds of aspects for online collaboration lead to that rich, meaningful aspect that's not just simply sharing a document, but engaging in communication and elaboration on various class activities. Our teacher story from today comes from Jasper Fox, who's a science teacher at Lakeland Copper Beach Middle School. And Jasper was sharing with me last week his activities, just a few, because he does a whole lot, on missing lab work in the classroom with online communication, as well as using Google Docs and Sheets for some other online collaboration type activities. His first project was fascinating for me because he was using online communication and collaboration tools like today's Meet just last Friday, where he's mixing face-to-face class lab work with simultaneous online Q&A and a task thread. So while students are working in the class, some are catching up with information for the lab, some are doing the activities based upon the flipped content he had made previously available, and there were 10 questions that were their classwork for the lab report. But he also utilized the Today's Meet thread for a simultaneous third-party voice, if you will, that was persistent in class. So students were working individually or in small groups, but he would then use the Today's Meet channel projected onto the class whiteboard for posting answers to questions and focusing students as they're working. Another example of an activity he shared with me was using collaboration documents. The example he shared was he typically has vocabulary assignments for his science units. But rather than him assigning and creating the vocabulary list, he totally turned it around and created student class ownership where they needed to create all of the vocabulary for a unit and create together a collaborative Google document to share amongst the class members. So there was one shared Google document, and all of the students had editorial rights to it. And his simple prompt was, you need to create a vocabulary listing from the unit, and everyone has to contribute, and everyone has to elaborate on the information. And they needed to provide a definition for the vocabulary item, a link to an online resource, as well as a picture. Those three aspects allowed various students to peer coach and elaborate on things that they might have only done a previous definition for one, but then they could aid another student's definition by finding and adding a link or a picture. So different avenues for different contribution by individual students. He said this saved him a lot of time letting the students create and identify the vocabulary they felt was important. It developed not only individual responsibility, but whole class ownership of their vocabulary lists. Jasper's agreed to host for us the +1 site visit event on December 9th, and it'll be from 12 to 3 p.m. where people who are going to join up for the +1 site visit, he'll be able to meet with the group before 2 of his class periods, then we'll be able to visit 2 of his science class periods, and we'll have a debrief session afterwards. So look for sign-up information for the +1 event for Jasper Fox in the follow-up email and on the Digital Learning Leadership website. So, building blocks are important to reflect upon when we're thinking about the online collaboration. I would offer that 2 strands to pick these apart can be communication as well as creation and elaboration. So some of the important building blocks would include comfort and confidence in using an online space for files, sharing and co-creating and co-elaborating shared documents, whether they be Microsoft Office 365, whether they be Google documents or media items. And then those powerful learning bolts from earlier are important not to forget that online collaboration not only with my classmates, but with other teachers, students in other schools, as well as with outsiders. Other communication tools include chat and video applications, so having comfort and confidence using Google Hangouts or Microsoft Skype for education as part of Office 365 are additional building block skills and activities for students. So whether you're a Google Apps domain or an Office 365 domain, all of the tools available can help you target these building block activities. Now let's dive into a couple of quick demonstrations and examples with the Clarity platform and where and how you can go to gain insight and analyses related to online collaboration in your schools and district. So I'm going to hop over to my Clarity login. And here we are in the Learning Dashboard. Now, just as a recap, when targeting 21st century achievement of instructional technology, these 4 domains are always present as part of our leadership strategy. Access and skills and environment are typically the easiest and more quickly targeted achievements by many schools and districts. However, it's the classroom domain that is always the important focus point as we look for deeper and more meaningful connection. So when you think about online collaboration and probing the data in your school or district, start in the classroom domain. And the 2 indicators you're going to be looking at are the teacher use of the 4 C's and the student use of the 4 C's. Those 2 strands of communication and collaboration would be the areas to begin probing and reflecting upon in your district. So taking a quick scan, one of the important elements, how often do teachers ask students to collaborate online with their classmates? How often do they ask students to collaborate online with teachers, with students at other schools, and then asking students to use an online space for documents? Now, one of our clarity tips that we looked at in the last episode was being efficient and effective in navigating my clarity tools. So I have the teacher collaboration open, and I also want to look at the students. So I'm going to use my right mouse button so that I can open up into my browser window and have both the student strand of data available as well as the teacher data. So using that little shortcut to right-click and open up some of the other report areas allows me to kind of toggle back and forth, and that can be one efficient, rapid strategy. So let's look at teachers asking students to collaborate online with classmates. We can see here that there's a representation that this isn't something that teachers are actively asking students to collaborate. But gaining some further insight, when I look at students' reports of how often they're asked to collaborate, we see a much wider spread. This can cause me to step away and want to probe and think about, in my school or district, there might be a possible misinterpretation by teachers. They might not be consciously asking students to collaborate online, and they might have already moved beyond that conscious asking, and it becomes kind of an implicit activity as students are reporting much higher levels of engagement. As I move down and look at collaborating online with teachers or with students at other schools, we can see that in our region, this is an opportunity for focus and attention. Let's take a look again for reflection and insight to see how students report. And you'll notice the same kind of spread here, and when I compare those, that can give me a good insight that this really can be an area for attention and focus in my school or district. Now, using some of the other clarity tools, in addition to right-clicking and opening up some of the other tabs, there's also the built-in compare option in all of the reports, which can give you an immediate side-by-side comparison. So if I was to look at using the compare tool to compare this aspect with students, again, this can help me quickly analyze and see either consistency for clarification or possibilities where there might be some difference between teachers and students' perceptions, which can then cause me to do some further probing or analysis in my school. When looking for areas to gain rapid analysis and insight around online collaboration, it's the classroom and skills domains that are going to draw your first attention. The indicators that you'll be looking at, again, would be under the use of the 4 C's, both for communication and collaboration. And then in the foundational skills, asking important questions in online networks and comfort and confidence and frequency collaborating using online documents are going to be those other indicators to give you that insight in your community. Don't forget the quick tips for rapid analysis to right-click and view multiple reports, comparing the teacher and student perspectives to find interesting trends that either echo and support each other or contrast and diverge from each other. Focus on varied audiences is an important element to think about in online collaboration. And then in those foundational skills, keeping a track of the pulse of comfort and confidence using other communication tools like chat, Google Hangouts, or Office 365 Skype video conference tools. When you want to start working the magic as a leader and stimulate interest and progress in your faculty, Here are a couple of quick ideas to take rapid action for maximum impact. When related to online collaboration, use those screenshots from your Clarity data and have a conversation with your faculty. Use that teacher-student comparison and ask them, does this make sense to you? Does this match your perceptions of what's happening in our school? Utilize mixing the back channel with in-person events. So just like Jasper Fox did with his students, they were engaged in classwork, but he used today's meet as a Q&A panel back channel for students so that third-party voice was also present. Try that out in a faculty meeting. Try that out in a parent event at school. All the activities are going on, but maintaining a today's meet can be a very simple, rapid action for maximum impact. Don't forget to always highlight the use of online space for documents, again, whether you're Google Apps or Microsoft Office 365. And tapping into communication, when you gain insights from external social networks or outside sources, make a point to communicate to your faculty that you have done just that. Show them and communicate to them and make explicit that you're reaching out and communicating outside the school. Encourage partnerships by your faculty with near and far teachers, and encourage and support students for 360-degree communication, not only with each other, but communicating with other teachers and possibly outside professionals in a field of study. You might try striving for one new voice a month, bringing in outside voices and ideas that you might have gained from other social networks or collaborative online communities. And when you find success happening in your school, always as a leader, don't forget to acknowledge, champion, and shout out loud to promote findings that teachers and students are achieving. Some additional kind of possible ideas. Collaborating with other faculty. It's very likely your faculty meeting is going to be targeting or resolving around an area of concern or interest that a nearby school or district. So try out a Skype or Google Hangout with another faculty meeting. A faculty-to-faculty exchange virtual field trip, again using Skype for Business or Google Hangout. Maintain that real-time digital campfire with back channel for feedback, brainstorming, or what I like to call crowdsourcing the sift and lift of ideas. There are many popular online brainstorming and collaborative tools like Poll Everywhere, Padlet, Answer Garden, Kahoot, and Today's Meet, and use those to create that digital campfire that's going on as, in addition to your face-to-face activities. Try at least one new shared online group work item per week. Create and share presentations with your faculty, and leverage your Office 365 and Google Apps online storage spaces. So today's quick 30-minute review by Jasper Fox of ways to use the back channel as part of classwork targets online collaboration from the communication building block aspect. A couple of quick areas to look at for analysis and insight in your Clarity data. Remember, the two important domains are classroom and skills. And then some takeaway ideas that we hope you might find interesting related to some simple actions for maximum impact. Thank you for joining us for this morning's episode 2 webinar. In the thank you email, you will find information about registering for the +1 event at Copper Beach Middle School on December 9th. We'll also have a link to this recorded webinar video if you missed part of the early elements. And then we'll also have separate downloads of the presentation material and an excerpt of the rapid strategies and tips from today's topic. We'll also be providing you with a link to tell us how we're doing. Is the focus on track? What's most important for you to gain and take away from these quick 30-minute webinars as part of the Leadership for Digital Learning webinar series? Thank you all for your time this morning after an extended long holiday weekend. I understand everybody's probably behind the 8 ball with ramping up for school in a short week, But my name again is Randy Hall, a senior facilitator here at the Lyric, and my email address is rhall@lyric.org. Have a great week, and I hope to see you next Tuesday.